Good evening.
Hello.
It's Friday Fellowship, Friday Friendship, where we solve all the world's problems, or maybe just one. I think that's kind of cool. And just a moment, why? There you go. Hello, Alex. Good to see you. Hi, Ella. Good to see y'all. Welcome to Friday Friendship / Fellowship. And we're going to just give it a few minutes, and then we're going to get started. Today is going to be a little different. Just tell you, we are contemplating some things that we know people are going through. So this broadcast may not be for everybody, but it also could be for you if you know someone that it could encourage. Tonight is just a little different. We would have come on earlier today, but we actually had an assignment to take a friend to the medical center for a doctor appointment. So we decided to switch it this evening. And you know we haven't done a lot of advertisement anyway over the time. And so tonight we're going to talk about some experiences we've had that are pretty intense, really, but they are real life things that we've gone through that could comfort you. It could be something you've gone through yourself. Hi, Michael. Actually, Michael, you are one that has gone through what we are going to discuss tonight. So it is deep and it is intense, and I'm just giving y'all fair warning. However, you know that we want to encourage people and strengthen people, and that if you only talk about silly things, people never really get to be healed of anything. Hi, Linda. It's good to see you. And so tonight I'm going to share something that happened to me when I was 18, and then we're going to kind of just launch off from there and see what happens. My mom got sick when I was young, and they didn't really tell me. My family did not really tell me what was going on. They did tell me she was sick. Actually, I went to Acapulco. Now, I was young. I went to Acapulco with and met my mom's aunt and her son. And on the way, I was on the ship for most of that time. And anyhow, I had this real strong dread inside me. I had this real strong feeling, and I just wanted to call home. I just needed to go home, and I tried to call home from the ship's phone. There were no cell phones then. That wasn't how we rolled. And I was gone a week, and I could not find anybody, but I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what it was. And so when I got home from the, let me just back up. Oh my goodness. I remembered this. Oh my. I totally, you know how we prepare for these things is we chat about a few things and then we see what God's going to do. We don't get so super prepared that we're not spontaneous and we're not just hearing. And I just remembered when my mom and my dad took me to the airport for my very first flight. You know, most parents, when you're young, if that's your first airport ride, they're going to take you in. And back then, you could be taken in and walked all the way to the plane when I was a kid. Well, my mom and my dad literally dropped me in the roundy round. And I knew then, I'm like, what the hey is going on? I didn't know. But I had a flight and I had to go. And so I went along my merry way, ended up on the ship, had these dreadful feelings. Long story short, come home, and my mom is not meeting me at the airport, and my dad is not meeting me at the airport, but my sister Betty is at the airport, and she's standing like this. And I took one look at her, and I said, what is wrong? And she commenced to inform me that my mom had been in the hospital from the day they dropped me at the airport, and she was still in the hospital the day I got home. And so I was a little in shock, and I asked questions, And I found out that what my mom had been sick in years previously had returned. She had not been feeling good. And so we went straight to the hospital to visit with her, of course. Now, I don't remember all the details of that season. I honestly just do not. Jen is blessed. I'd say it's blessed, but it's difficult sometimes. She has just a pretty airtight memory in life of many things, starting from like even 1 year old. But I don't have that. I have a lot of muscle memory. Anyhow, and I learned that my mom was very ill. They told me that my mom had, I think they told me she had 6 months to live. But actually, what they had told her was that she had 3 months to live. Now, my mom lived 10 months. She shrunk to a very small person. Excuse me. I apologize. This was almost 40 years ago. My heart is healed now. It did take many years. One of the reasons it took many years is because I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't know what to do. I did not have a relationship with God at the time. I honestly felt like God had killed my mom, and I said so across from the burial service. I said, well, God killed my mom. And so that was my mindset for a long time before I had truth and really understood what happened. Anyway, point is, after my mom passed, and so I think over a lifetime, I have overcompensated in some ways and perhaps gone overboard, but at the same time, after working a lot of the overboard out of me, I realize that God has just given me a great compassion for that sort of thing. And so when someone has that happen with them, I have great compassion. Now, does that mean that I'm weeping my guts up the whole time? No, that's not what it means for me. Compassion to me is not just coming alongside and weeping your guts up with somebody. Though that helps someone, that they know someone is hurting with them. Absolutely. Absolutely. But for me, empathy is the enemy of compassion. Empathy can understand and feel what you're feeling and come into that place with you and feel it with you so you feel comforted. But to me, compassion feels what you feel and walks with you through it and is not taken by it, but they come alongside with you to strengthen you as you walk through it so that you walk through it and don't get stuck in it. To me, in a nutshell, I didn't have anybody who did that with me. My family didn't know what to do. My dad, bless his heart, was lost without his wife of 30 without her. And I was an 18-year-old who really, truly needed some wisdom. I needed guidance. I needed comfort. I needed direction. I was supposed to go to college. I had all these things. I had even gotten a scholarship to go to college. And so I really needed some clear direction. Now, nowadays, I know people say, well, just get with God. Well, yeah, sure. But if you don't have a relationship with God, it's kind of hard to get with somebody you don't know how to get to. Was he with me? Sure he was. Absolutely he was. Otherwise, I probably would have killed myself. So absolutely he was with me. However, that being said, I still didn't know what to do. And so now I know what I would do. I just literally wrote a letter to someone who had a passing in their family 6 months ago. And I will tell you something. I've hurt for 6 months, and I haven't really said anything to them. I have not known what to say yet, but I've been pondering. I'm just not the 99-cent send you a sympathy card kind of girl. You know? I'm the, what can I give you? What can I offer you that can strengthen you? What can I offer you that will allow you to take a breath and say, okay, I can live one more day. I'm going to be okay. It took me 6 months to formulate those thoughts and to formulate those ideas and to even sit down and write a letter to express my heart. And you know what? I barely know the family. I really actually don't know the family. I only know one person in the family, and that person I haven't seen in almost 20 years. But God allowed me to hurt from a distance on what was happening and then express my heart to them very recently to encourage them. One of the reasons is because nobody did anything when my mom passed. My friends didn't do anything because they didn't know what to say. Did they come to her funeral? Sure. But you know what? After the funeral and the dust settles, sometimes there's just nothing but silence. And some people don't know what to do in the silence.
I remember, first of all, I am very blessed to have a big family with, on one whole branch, we've had 5 generations on the planet at once. And I've had relationship with all of these people. I know that some people never even know their grandparents, much less their great-grandparents.
Yes.
So I am very blessed to have grown up with all of the above. But I remember my first experience with death was when I was in 6th grade. I had 2 very close together. The first one was a classmate of mine who had his locker directly under mine, who I sat next to in our study hall, who I rode the bus with, who lived a couple streets away from me. He committed suicide. So the whole school was rocked and shaken, and kids didn't know how to deal with that. And there was a lot of emotion that ran very high. And I really didn't know what to do. I felt a lot of guilt because I knew that something was going on with him. He was just kind of acting really down and dark sometimes, but I had no grid in those days I was a child. And yes, I'd had some intense experiences in my life, but I had no grid for recognizing signs or what to say, There were a couple of things looking back that I thought, oh, I should have said something about this thing that I noticed, or I should have reached out in this other way. And so I had to deal with that. But in that first experience, and then very soon after, my great-grandfather, my mom's grandfather, who was actually kind of like a father to her, he was elderly and he did have some health issues. It wasn't completely out of nowhere that he passed, but it was still a really serious blow. And so I did know him and I did love him, but he was very close with my mom. And so those 2 experiences happening close together, looking back, I understand, but there was a season where I was like, what the heck? Because no one really reached out to me and said, like, how are you feeling about this? And, are you doing okay? It was like, we're getting in the car and we're driving out of town and we're going to these services and we're being in the house all day while there's strangers coming in and out and random relatives that I didn't know and things, and people are super duper sad and just lots of things. And so, and then watching my mom be so broken, and I think a couple times people saw me kind of crying and they kind of tried to make me laugh, but it wasn't like anybody was there to actually even reach into my heart. And I don't even know if I would have known how to even express. I was just so upset and kind of in shock. So whether you're a child or an adult, it's really the same, but I have especially noticed with kids to really take time. You don't have to have fancy explanations or fancy anything. You don't have to have a degree in psychology. You don't even have to, try to make things better. Just providing a space, providing a safe place to express. Be it you just need to cry without words and just be held, or just sit with me for a while, I'm not sure what's going on, or whether like the anger hits or something, or you just want to talk it out, you're not really sure, it's confusing. People, I think about kids, but it happens with adults too. Even if you've known, like many people who have gone on, another one can feel just as fresh or even stronger. So it's
Yeah.
not like I'm singling anybody out. I just happen to have seen it happen a lot with children. That they're either overlooked because everyone's so in such grief that they
Yes.
don't think to check on the children.
That's what happened with me. Yeah.
That's what sparked it, 'cause that wasn't what I was actually going to talk about at first. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh yes, 18 even. It's still a child.
Oh yeah.
And she was the youngest of 4 siblings, and so
Yeah.
she was the only child at home still. And anyway, but yes, we all need that place to even begin to process what that even means. So that was my very first encounter, and so it set the tone, really, I think, regarding the topic of death. I already carried some sadness over some things, and I wasn't just like sad all the time, but that really added to the gray lens that I had in some areas, and I carried that. In fact, about the classmate, my friend, I didn't realize I was still carrying some of that grief and some of that guilt until about a year and a half ago. I was actually invited to go spontaneously to visit someone who went to the ER. It was kind of like, hey, I'm going over here to see so-and-so. You want to come with me? And all of a sudden I kind of had like my heart was thinking, well, yeah, I care about that person, but I kind of went into like a little freak out mode, and because it triggered these emotions, and I realized we prayed together, and I realized God brought this revelation of, you're still carrying the grief from way back in 6th grade when you felt like you were partially responsible for his death. And so you need to be free from that today so that you can even begin to go help the people
Yes.
that you really desire to, that I've put that compassion in you. And there is a call or a gift in some ways to that. And so all this has just held you back. And so it was very eye-opening.
Yes. For those that you're just joining, we're talking about some serious things tonight. And after my mom passed when I was 18, 6 months later, my best friend was killed by a drunk driver. She and her fiance were both killed instantaneously by a drunk driver who made a U-turn. And they were in a propane truck, and they were basically disintegrated immediately. And so, not cool. Now, I work with people in trauma now. Duh. And I work to help people not just overcome trauma, but be healed from trauma. But at the time, I'm clueless. And I tell you what, I shut down after that. I did not cry. I did not read a book except for my college material that I was forced to read for 12 years. I did not read. I had, when I was young, I was just the opposite. When I was young, I read all the time. I'm telling you, I would check out 30 to 50 books. I'd read them over the weekend, and then I'd check out, I would check out 50 plus books on Monday and read them all throughout the week. I read literally for years all the time, and I lived in that place. Now, I was bullied a lot when I was a kid, and so that was how I handled being bullied. I lived in a fantasy world in my mind at night, right? So for me, growing up in shutdown, although I would not have called it that then, and then after my mom passed, and then my best friend was killed, moving into shutdown, you wouldn't have seen it or known it because I continued to function. I was continuing to be here. I continued to go to school. I ended up marrying way too young. I ended up moving across the nation, living in another state, and
being a hard worker.
Being a very hard worker. I ended up making some decisions that were not wise, did not know God. And of course, you can know God and still not be wise, if you don't listen to it. Anyhow, what I'm saying is, because I moved into shutdown, which I didn't know at the time that's what that was, I did nothing but shut down one thing after another, after another, after another, for many years. And then eventually I shut down that gig and I moved back to Texas because that's where God lived. I still have my journal. I just threw away most of my journals, if y'all saw a few weeks ago. I mean, a huge container with journals from 1982, some even from the 70s, through recently, because it's just not who I am anymore. But I kept the one where I wrote in it, I'm moving back to Texas because that's where God lives. And little did I know that that was his plan, right? I came because I had a drawing inside for this person that really was to be my main gig. I just didn't know. And so shutting down was is sometimes a natural response to a death, a natural response to a loss. I'm not saying it's the appropriate response. I'm not saying it's the wise response. I'm not saying it's what God wants us to do. I'm saying sometimes that's what we lean into. We lean into it because we don't know what to do. We don't know where to go. We don't know how to be comforted. We don't know what to do with something that happened that makes absolutely zero sense. And if you have a faith, if you have a trust in God, that is the opportunity for this information and for this blow to devastate you and throw you on the ground and stomp all over you until you might want to kill yourself anyway. These are the kind of things that happen when you are devastated with sickness, with loss, with death, suicide, disease. And sometimes it takes years. And I'll tell you, a few years ago, she was talking about how sometimes as an adult, you finally come to grips with a loss. About 4 years ago, I actually came to the acknowledgement that my mom died. Now, she died when I was 18. Now, I'm 57 this year. And I had not really ever truly dealt with it. And I will tell you, I literally screamed bloody murder for 10 minutes. I'm saying for 10 minutes. And that may not seem that long, but it was a very ferocious, deep, guttural scream, bloody murder that I can barely talk the next day over. When my mom passed, when I was 18, I did not cry. And when I did cry, it was literally when I hit 30, when I came into an actual relationship with God myself. He was already loving on me. I was the reluctant one, you know. And in that place, I cried then. But I didn't cry like I cried about 4 or 5 years ago, where I just let it loose. I let all the pain go. I let all the confusion go. I let all the hurt go of basically living my life without the very one that was my best friend. So I didn't just die. I didn't just express my pain for when she died. I knew that deep depth of hurt was for the life I lived without her. And honestly, she died when she was 57, and here I'll be 57 this year. It's miraculous because I didn't think I'd live past 30.
These are precious things. For one thing, I feel like somebody out there needs to, or people out there need to know that grief comes in a lot of different forms.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always even look like someone's physical leaving the earth. You could be grieving over a relationship that has died, or that seems like it has died and you're not sure if it would ever resurrect.
Yeah.
You could be grieving over the loss of a job or a loss of your house. A lot of people in this area, in the Houston area, have had to rebuild after flooding or after, just different weather devastation. Grief comes in a lot of forms. It could be, and also even in the case of divorce, this is really being highlighted to me right now. There's some things about divorce. It's never just about the two people. And so I know that some people try to work things out, and there's some, it's kind of amicable between the different family branches and things, but for some people it's literally like when you sever the marriage, you sever the entire other side of the family.
Yeah.
So it's literally like not just two hearts being ripped that were one, but a lot of hearts get ripped in the mix.
Yeah.
So there's grief that just spreads everywhere, and that's not to put condemnation on anyone. It's just to state the facts. It's never just about two. Even in a friendship, there's usually not just two people involved. There's other people that are involved in each other's lives that are affected. And so it's really important to know that we're not alone in those times. You're not less of a man or less of a woman or less of a Christian or less of anything to have feelings and have emotions and have a journey. It is important where we decide to camp out long term and where we put our thoughts, but we walk through many things in life for a season, and it's okay to walk through those things for a season. Go ahead.
So seasons of life. I have experienced some hard things. Everyone has. And another one that came to my mind was there was a time I was diagnosed with something, and I was told it was not curable. And this was in the 90s. And honestly, it was devastating. And I was new in my faith. And without me knowing, without me realizing, without me having any kind of grid on what to do or what not to do, without knowing it, I moved into a place of despair. Now, I didn't know I was in despair. There was this pastor. He has moved on into the heavens some time back, but his name was Bo. Pastor Bo. There was always this little thing around church. Bo knows. And one day he was walking by me, and he stopped and he looked at me and he said, Donna? And he said, I'm not sure what's going on with you, but I just want to tell you that it's one thing to feel depressed, but it's another thing to move into despair. And despair is very, very difficult to recover from. Well, I kind of moved forward, walked on with that, and I knew inside me he was talking to me, that God was talking to me. And I knew I had moved into despair, and I didn't know. I had moved into despair because I had come into a relationship with God, and I realized the life I'd lived. Listen, it's just, when you have a relationship with somebody that's real, it's not just all, woo, yay, whoa. There's not much depth in that, people. Even in our relationship here, there's more depth here than just, woo, it's a party. If you're just in party and that's all you got, I don't know. I think we should talk privately to see who are you in relationship with. Because I had moved into despair, and the reason I had is I had been diagnosed with something. I didn't know what to do. I had come to the acknowledgement that the marriage, the person I'd been in relationship with for 7 years, including 3.5 years of marriage, that had ended. And it didn't have to, but that is what happened. We didn't know who we were, and it just didn't work. I came to acknowledgement of my mom's death. I came to the acknowledgement of my best friend's death. I came to acknowledgement actually of someone else who had gone into a coma. And there are multiple things that as I came into this relationship with God that I needed to face. I faced some things about me that I'd never faced before. I had completely ignored them. Why? Because I mostly had been on shutdown most of my life. I'd been bullied most of my life, and so I did not have an authentic an authenticity about me because I lived out of rejection. I lived out of pain. I lived out of everybody hates me. I lived out of me hate me. I lived from this place of dark, death-filled type culture on the inside of my heart. And then coming to the acknowledgement of my mom's passing, and then I had a job end after I'm walking out my life. And so all these things, one thing after another, all these different losses really overwhelmed, and I didn't know what else to do other than shut down. And so I did. And it actually took me a couple of years to come out of that. And it was a process. It was day by day by day by day by day. It was not, whoa, I'm great and it's awesome. And you know what? If you went through something and you're, oh, great and it's awesome, praise God. I love that. God is different with all of us. But for me, it was step by step. Now I look back and I realize why. Because I can walk with you step by step by step. And sometimes I might be pretty stern because I see you're in the depth of something that it will take you years to come out of. But I'm with you. I love you. And I want you up and out. I don't want you staying and remaining in shutdown. I experienced that. Nobody needs to be there ever if they don't have to be, right? That's the life I lived, and he called me out. He called me. Did he help me get out? He did not help me get out. That's the only time we ever talked about it. He did not. He did not reach his hand in there and say, hey, come with me, let me help you out. He did not. However, God provided what God needed to provide for me to find my way out. And I was able to pull out. I was able to. It was not easy. It took diligence. I fell down sometimes. I had to be pulled back up, and so on and so on. But those losses, all those compiled on me. And I know these are heavy things. We're talking about death and dying and everything in between tonight. Because we lived through them. And we're still living through them. Recovery isn't always just like that. You know, there are scriptures that talk about comfort those in the same way that you've been comforted. Weep with those who are weeping. Rejoice with those who are rejoicing. And if you're not stable, all you'll do is weep with those who are weeping, and you'll just live there. Or you'll just rejoice with those who are rejoicing, and you'll live there. And you won't be able to offer the depth that's inside of you to help other people because you're in one mode or the other mode. You're not in the balance and the health. Walking it out here with him, that is your strength to love yourself and love those around you with the same love that you've been loved with.
I was thinking it'd be good for you to talk about how we've talked about inviting to or acknowledging that God is with you in each thing instead of trying to deal with it by yourself.
Okay.
Like, what does it mean to walk with God through a grief or through a joy or through whatever?
Okay, so what do? Sometimes we're on a mountaintop and we're like, whoa, everything's awesome. This is phenomenal. Yay. And we're not realizing that the person who lives inside of us wants to experience that with us. Is God experiencing everything? Of course he is. He's God. Come on, people. However, relationally, there is this thing that happens with God, Father, Son, and Spirit, those three living inside of you, the one that makes you one. There's a union with you. He wants to experience with you out of relationship your greatest victory. He also wants to experience in relationship and out of relationship your deepest pain. Because he wants to offer his comfort and his strength. Listen, if you don't have the comfort of God in what you're going through, you will find the comfort of man. You will find the comfort of, if you're a man, you might find the comfort of another woman. If you're a woman, you might find the comfort of another man. And I'm not saying we don't need the comfort of another person. I'm telling you, though, if you look for another person to fill you up with their comfort, you will be very surprised one day when that's just not enough to comfort you. And you realize what seemed like a good thing is an empty thing, because there's no substance when it's just offered this way. The substance is this way. The substance is on the inside. Inside, this comforter, this person, this friend, this lover, this God, this Lord, this Father, this Son, this Spirit, this three, this marriage, it's made for all seasons, not just one season. All seasons. So, when you can be comforted in your deepest pain, you know what? You can rejoice in your greatest victory with the same power, the same strength, the same life source. If it's just, whoa, everything's awesome, everything's awesome, da 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 da. If that's all it is, where's the depth? Where's the relationship? And you know, it's the same thing. She talked about anger earlier. You know, God's not afraid of our anger. Mm-hmm. Listen, when I really came to grips with my mom's death, I was pissed. I was greatly angry because my best friend, my closest confidant, was no more with me. Was she still alive? Of course she was. And of course she is. I'm saying here, in the here and now, I can no longer love her. And we can no longer play canasta. We can no longer play slapjack together. I couldn't invite her to my wedding. She couldn't be with me through my strongest trials. She couldn't see me triumph, and she couldn't see me fail and get back up. And that's what friends do. So there's a place of depth in God. And listen, this is not from not being healed. This is from the depth. The depth, the place where he's real, where he's a real person. He's not just some spirit in the sky like the songs play. And any minute, you know, I have some widow friends whose spouses passed some many years ago, and some of them have chosen to be single and remain single. That's good. And then I have some that would like to marry again, you know. And there's this struggle of how do you do that? You have to get at peace with yourself before you marry someone else. You have to have peace within you. If you're looking for peace from another person, you would just find out that there is many pieces in them as there are in you. And all they'll offer you is pieces. He is your peace source, your life source, your relationship source. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, honey. I need to blow my nose. Good. Pardon me.
That's so good. That even applies to people who have never been married before, because this may be a little overboard, but I don't prefer the phrase "my better half." I understand people are trying to be positive when they say those things, but to me it just reinforces that it's not a half and a half coming to be a whole. It's whole and a whole coming to be really powerful dynamic. So pieces and pieces don't make, it's not like you complete your jigsaw puzzle with another person. Brokenness only attracts more brokenness, which multiplied brokenness is pretty messy down the line. And a lot of things can look really glittery and really appealing at first. Yes. On both sides, because oh wow, especially when there's been a deep cut, a
yes.
deep wound, a deep pain.
Yeah.
Because then it's just like it's almost like being so starving and somebody offers you something
Yes.
that normally you wouldn't have any preference to eat
Yes.
whatsoever. But oh my gosh, if I could just get that because
Deep
I'm
comfort.
so famished.
Yes.
Then it's the same with relationships and emotions, and all of that gets really messy really quick when we're not remembering who our source is. You know, one of the things that I desperately cried out to God a couple of years ago about when I was coming through a season of a couple of solid years where I had multiple losses. I felt like God had just given me all these fresh encouragements about me coming into agreement for life over people, and how I've known for many years, like I love to pray for people and to pray for physical healing and health for people, and no matter what the diagnosis. I mean, I've carried a lot of faith for a lot of my life, even though I've seen some hard things. But there was a few years ago when it felt like there was just a series, just one after another, and it felt like everybody that I was agreeing for and wanting to encourage, or being like, yes, God, you say this over them, and just saying yes to health and life on the planet, they just kept leaving and leaving and leaving and leaving. And it just felt like at one point I realized, man, this feels really devastating to me. I didn't realize I would get to this place where I just feel like there's been such a series of loss. I just was carrying such heaviness. And I was really crying out to him because it was affecting me physically very, very much. It had really gotten out of hand.
Yes.
I could no longer just, I just trust the Lord. It was like,
Your heart was beating.
yes, I was having major physical issues as well as emotions, just not a lot of healthy release anymore. I didn't know what to do. So I cried out to him. I understand that you are my source, capital S. I get that. And yes, you will always be. However, I'm asking you for resources. What are the resources that you have for me? Because I know you're my provider, you're my healer, but you use people, ministries, books, radio programs, teachings, like groups. I don't know what I need, and I really didn't have a lot of money or anything, so I'm like, I don't even know where I can even go look for anything. But he started answering my prayers, and he started sending me resources. One of them was Donna Reiners. And he has been healing those places. Some very quickly and instantly, and others I'm walking out and I'm learning how to renew my mind in areas, and just getting some fresh breath in places that felt like, so I just got my gut punched over and over again, where it's like I just couldn't catch my breath in some places. You know, I feel like and God is right there. He saw that and he's right there to give you fresh oxygen, and to help you get stabilized again so that you can even think clearly, to even move forward and see the forest for the trees, so to speak, instead of just feeling like everything's just overwhelming. I was thinking about this story has come to me several times recently, of when Jesus was in a boat with disciples and there was a great storm, and we can kind of read that like, and then there was this storm, and Jesus was asleep in the boat and they woke him up and he's just like, calm, be peace. And we just kind of read over things, like that's cool, but they were literally afraid for their life.
Yeah.
It was bad. Have you ever seen, either in real life or in a movie or something, where there's this little boat and the waves are literally look like they're gonna take out everybody, take out the whole lot. And Jesus was literally resting. So what he has been showing me through this story he keeps bringing to my mind lately is he is God, he is infinite, he is omnipotent. The Bible says that he holds the universe in the span of his hand. This right here, I just did it again. In this section right here, God can hold the entire universe, which is very vast. You can read up on many details of how large the universe is, and it is still growing at the speed of light, to my knowledge. However, he is so intimately acquainted with every single detail of our lives. He knit our physical frame together, every little tiny part within every cell. He designed perfectly. He knows our emotions and can explain them better than we even can. I love the verses, those precious verses that talk about, he even speaks like when all we have are just groanings. Like he understands so much deeper. So he knows our thoughts before we even think them. He's just so personal and so detailed and so intentional. So he is not aloof. So when Jesus was sleeping in the boat, he was not aloof to their fear. Oh, well, I'm God, so I'm good. I'm going to rest. It'll all work out. Y'all figure it out, you people who don't have any faith. And, he wasn't upset with them. Like,
that's right.
I can't believe you don't believe after all this time, people. Can I take a nap, like, without you freaking out? He didn't think those things. I don't care how you try to interpret and all that. That's not his heart.
That's right.
His heart is not mean. Sometimes truth hurts, but it's always in the love place.
Yes.
And so it's not about criticizing or, making people feel like they're idiots. So he was not like that. But when you read that passage, look at see it through a compassion lens. When he got up, he saw what was going on, and he immediately rose to help them.
Yes.
And to calm that storm, and I'm sure afterward they had amazing conversation. Maybe it was just quiet for a while because they were just like trying to catch their own breath, like, we almost just died. Maybe they were feeling offended, like, what the hey, you look like you didn't care. Maybe they had to work that out relationally, kind of reconnect with his real heart. Maybe they were super excited and later threw a party, like, we survived! Maybe they felt their faith just soar through the roof, like, you know what? We just witnessed that. Shoot, next time I'm getting up. Give me double the storm, buddy. You don't know what happened from that. But
that's right.
But that interaction was so important that they saw that he came. So if you're in a place where, even if it feels like it's been an extended time where you're like, I literally don't know how much more this boat can take. Please know that he is not sleeping, ignoring you. He is not aloof to your feelings, your emotions, your bank account that looks scary, those relationships that are strained, your health that you keep getting bad reports, whatever it is. He's right there, and really just receive the love that he has. And I don't know what that will look like practically, logistically speaking. We all have individual journeys, but he is never absent. And the presence of God in a storm is worth more than anything. Trying to make it scoot through life, not having a relationship with him and thinking everything is peachy keen. It's different.
Listen, maybe you feel like he is aloof. Maybe you do feel like he doesn't care. Maybe what she's expressing is a word of knowledge of some sort. And maybe you've sought him and you're like, I don't get it. I don't feel anything. More than likely, every person has felt that at some point in time or another. When she was talking earlier about how, she sought the Lord for several years because she was physically unhealthy. She was mentally unhealthy. Her soul, her spirit, and her body were all just getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And she was wondering if she was going to survive. She's like, God, you're my source. She knew he was real, although she did not see him moving right then. Because when you see him moving, you're not asking him to help you. Because you already got your answer. She wouldn't have asked him if she didn't need it. So she was in a place of great desperation. I remember desperation. I will probably have desperation again. Although I remember Pastor Bob talking about, do you want to be drawn through devastation, through desperation, or affliction, or do you want to be drawn with affection? Our positioning to find this one who lives inside of us. Some don't know how to find the presence. Some people go from church to church to church to church, from person to person to person to person, to find this thing they hear about called the presence of God. And certainly, I hope that the presence of God are found in those different settings, whether there be corporate settings, whether they be Sunday or Wednesday or revivals or whatever, or through individuals that you hear have got some kind of touch from God, and you go to them kind of like the woman with the issue of blood went to Jesus, reaching with everything within for the hem, and in that place her faith made her whole. Maybe you're in that place where you are desperately reaching. I just want to encourage you with a few things. One, it's okay to desperately reach. Oh my goodness. Be authentic, be you. Be authentic, be you. You know, all of us say, oh yeah, I believe in heaven, and I believe I'll live forever, and you know, yes, Jesus is good. But the minute you're diagnosed with something where your life might be over, I think that we all know that most of us will say, you know what, I would rather choose to live. Why? Not because heaven's not real, but because this earth and the people that we see and the people we know, that this is real, and we would like to continue to experience it until it is our time to step into the next place. So until that time, if you need to be desperate, be desperate. If you need to know, how do I find the presence? Listen, I'm going to tell you something. If you wonder if God is alive, if you wonder, does God live in you? I want you to just do this. You're breathing. He's in you. Your oxygen flows, your blood flows. He's in you. The reason you have breath, the reason you're alive, He's in you. If you are not finding this one that you so desperately know is real out here, then look in here. Look in here. Father, Son, and Spirit inside you. Those three living inside of you, in union with you, married to you. Whether you feel married to Him or not doesn't matter. Listen, there are times I do not feel married. But that does not mean that I'm not in that place where God has brought me into that covenant with Him. Just because I don't feel it doesn't mean it's not so. Just because I don't feel this huge presence, this huge warm blanket, this presence that makes me feel like I'm okay, it doesn't mean that I'm not okay, and it doesn't mean that God's not real, and it doesn't mean that He's not here. Now, maybe He's not demonstrating to you in a way that you understand. Maybe you're looking for, hey, He didn't show up on Sunday, or I was up all night long weeping, and I still felt the same when I woke up the next morning. Listen, if you're breathing, He's there. Your blood is flowing, He's there. Sometimes we have to return to the basics. And the basics are you're living, you're breathing, and God is inside you. God is within you, or you would not be living, and you would not be breathing. And that may sound just pretty simplistic, but maybe we miss the simple way that God shows up. You are alive, and there's blood flowing. Guess what? Jesus is alive inside of you, with the blood flowing, with the breath flowing, everything within you, Father, Son, and Spirit. They are married to you, whether you feel married to them or not. I want to encourage you to stop, and instead of thinking way out here, I'm going to find Jesus on Sunday. I'm going to meet with Jesus on Wednesday. Oh, I'm going to go get my fix. I'm going to go to my church on Sunday, and I'm going to worship, and I'm going to pray, and I'm going to get down on my knees, or I'm just going to sit in my pew with my hands like this, or I'm going to read my hymnal. Whatever your flavor is doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's right in here you're going to find the peace for all your pieces. You won't get your pieces fixed in a service, because the one who fixes your pieces lives inside you already. And so if you will, stop with me. And I had not planned to do this. Of course, we don't plan most of what we're going to do anyway. But if you will stop with me and you will just consider and take a deep breath with me. Just take a deep breath. Come on, you can do it. Don't be afraid. Just take a deep breath. One more time. That breath, that's his life. That blood that's flowing through you, that's the manifestation of him being alive in you. And maybe, just maybe, at this moment, you acknowledge that he's alive in you. Maybe you acknowledge him on the weekends. Maybe you acknowledge him on Sunday. Maybe you don't go to church. That's okay. Church is not going to save you. Maybe you acknowledge him on the river every Sunday with a can of beer in your hand. I don't care. Maybe you acknowledge him at the football game. Don't care. Don't care. Wherever you acknowledge him, I want you to stop and acknowledge him here without the fanfare, without the event, without an incident. Just acknowledge, like I acknowledge. Jennifer, I acknowledge your presence. Mm-hmm. I acknowledge. Just stop and say, God, I acknowledge your presence. I acknowledge you right now, right here. And though I don't feel you, I confess with my lips, you're real. And though I'm disappointed because of X, Y, Z, I bring myself back to the place where I acknowledge that you're God. And maybe you're angry. You just say, you know what? I'm pretty angry right now because of X, Y, Z. Say it. Don't hide from it. Don't repress it. You think he doesn't know? No, he knows. And he's not afraid. And he's not scared. He's not afraid. And he's not scared. And listen, if you're one of those, and don't hang up on me. Oh, come on, don't get mad at me. Just hear me through. If you are one of those who you acknowledge the universe. Oh, the universe said this today, and the universe did this, and all the stars lined up for this and that and the other. If you're one who does that, that's good. But would you like to know who I'm in a relationship with? I'm in a relationship with the one who holds the universe in his hands. Wouldn't you rather know him? Wouldn't you rather know them? The Father who is the architect, the Son who is the creator, and the Spirit of truth who leads and guides. These are the presence. This is the substance that you're looking for, and you find them in here. You don't have to go to Pastor so-and-so or your friend that you think is just so full of God, although you can. You can stop and look yourself in the mirror and do one of these numbers. Don't be mad. And look yourself in the eye and say, God, I think you're in there. And just take a moment to say hello to the three living inside you, which makes you one with him. Because he's married to you. He's not just hanging out with you. Jesus isn't just courting you. There's no intimacy in courting, at least there's not supposed to be. The intimacy is in the marriage. And you're married already, whether you feel it or not. And in that place of relationship, you can turn with your grief, with your pain, with your need for friendship, with your need for God to meet you where you are. You can meet with your anger. You can meet with these years of unmet expectations. You can meet with the disappointment of someone passing way too soon. You can meet in a place of great intimacy, and he will meet you. Lay down how you expect him to come. Lay down how you expect him to talk to you. And take a deep breath and acknowledge how he already talks to you. Acknowledge that his breath is already breathing through you. Acknowledge that the blood is flowing through. Acknowledge the times when this didn't happen and this didn't happen and that didn't happen. Acknowledge the time when he rescued you. And at the time, maybe you didn't realize it was him. Take the moment to realize the real person the Father, Son, and Spirit living inside you, the one, are there. And listen, maybe you were born and you think you were a mistake. Well, let me just tell you something. I'm not going to tell you that's ridiculous, but I would show you how ridiculous it is. I won't tell you it's ridiculous. I will show you. You're not a mistake. You want to know why you're not a mistake? Because you weren't created by some big bang. You were created by God himself. I don't care how the seed got there, whether the seed got there through a man or the seed got there through a test tube. Don't care. The seed got there. And in that place, he took you and he made you and he created you and he put skin on and he put the organs in and he did all these things with you. And then when you were born, whether you were born early or you were born late or whatever, he was already there holding you because he created you intimately, personally. And when he was born, guess what he didn't do? He didn't say, whoa, see you later, catch me on the flip-flop. I hope you find me one day because, I'm going to need you to bow down to me later on because I'm not going to acknowledge you until you do. What kind of father would leave you when you're born? No. This is Donna's rendition of the reality of relationship. Here, God is. He created you and he formed you. And do you know what? He's waiting for the day when you decide you want to get to know him too. You can say it through the Roman road. You can say it through the Jesus come into my heart. You can say it through the I acknowledge you. You can do like Paul and say, we'll get blinded by the light and there you can see. You can say it through on your knees. Oh, Jesus, here I am. It doesn't matter how you do it. I'm just telling you, he's just waiting for you too. That's all I'm saying. No matter how you get there, who cares? We all have all this disagreement on how we get to know Jesus. Some people believe we're born with Jesus. Some people believe we meet Jesus later. All I can tell you is God created you and I don't believe he left you. And if you will acknowledge him, you can have a journey on this planet because the Bible says you came from God. The Bible says you return to God. So what do you think is going to happen in this lifetime on this planet? You think if you came from God, he doesn't talk to you here? Heck no. Here you are. And he's like, hey, let's get to know each other here because I already know you. You already know me. The Bible says in the New Testament that we've been in Christ since the foundation of the world. Explain that. No matter how you read it, it says the same thing. I don't care if you're in the King Jimmy or you're in the NASB or the whatever you're in. They all mean the same thing. You came from God. You return to God, and on this planet, you get to know him. You get to know him. He already knows you. He just wants you to get to know him. He is your peace for all your pieces. He is your joy for all your mourning. He is your life for all your death. He is your living for all your despair. He is your rejoicing for all the depression. He can find you because he has never left you.
Not much to say after that.
Yeah, you do. Bring it, sister.
I'm not going to backtrack. That was pretty much awesome.
There's no backtracking. Hey, listen. We have real feelings on this planet. And the whole point of our broadcast is that with your real feelings and with your pain and with your hurt and with your need for comfort, that yes, there are all sorts of places to go to, but then there's also this one here. So no matter where you go and no matter what you do it with him. Do it with him. She said earlier that there was a time when she was just desperate for help, and she's like, I know you're my source, but I need some resources, right? Well, there are resources for those who need comfort. There are resources for those that are in pain. There are resources for those who are at loss. Matter of fact, I looked up some of them earlier because of losing my mom, losing my best friend, losing other friends, being divorced, not now, divorce, holding my sister's hand when she died 6 years ago. Listen, that was not fun. But I knew her then. We were friends, not just sisters then. And I'd spent a lot of time with her. And it was my pleasure to be with her as she moved into the next realm. That was my pleasure. But you know what? I knew God, and I was able to offer her a comfort that just Joe Blow off the street couldn't offer her. I was able to lead her in a way where she felt the strength of God as she moved forward into the next place. To move forward from God to God, right? And I was able to be a resource of comfort here on the planet for her in her time of need, which was several years of needing care, you know? And there are resources. There are resources for people who need help. And I think we're going to talk about those now. Some resources that we have, and some things we've experienced, and some things that I wish I'd experienced.
Well,
I have Kleenex.
I was ready earlier, and then she had to go off and do all the amazing God stuff, and I'm like, where do you go from there? And now I'm about to cry.
This is God stuff right here. If you need comfort, you need strength, this is raw and this is real. Because we have real things that happen. You know, we go through this Facebook thing, and we go this, woo, everything's good, and then, oh, that's sad. Oh, look at the pet, and oh, look at that. It's like it's so disassociate. Real life right here, right now.
So, hello, Internet. 8.5 months ago, actually tomorrow will be 8.5 months. Yes, I noticed numbers, and yes, I noticed the calendar without even trying. I'm just one of those people. Everything's an anniversary. Everything's an everything. So 8.5 months ago, my dad went to heaven. And in some ways, yes, we had warning. He was ill, physically ill. However, I felt until his very last days, I did still feel that anything could happen. I was like, we're all still believing that God, he can just jump out of this bed, or that there'll be just one day at a time getting progressively better, or, there were all these things. Wasn't really sure. Still kind of like just taking one thing at a time, just trying to follow and agree with what God was doing. So when he did leave the earth, it was extremely painful, also very glorious. Some amazing things happened in the season just prior, which, by the way, little side note plug, Donna and I have done a few other videos, like little devotional type videos, and I specifically shared some things regarding the topic of grief and the topic of my dad and some of the things that I've been walking through. So if you would like to know about those little videos, then you can comment, and we will connect you with those little videos. They're on this page, just I don't know how far back or lost.
We're actually on my public profile. But on your Greater Partner page, we have Thursday every 9 a.m. is Jen's Jumping with Jen, where she shared a whole series on grieving from her dad's passing, which, like she said, was just 8.5 months ago.
So if you happen to be someone who that would help, or someone that may help, it's just me and some things that God and I were walking through, and some things he was showing me. And but with that, there was I had considered off and on maybe going to some sort of grieving type group, like with other people who have experienced loss. And I was hesitant because I really didn't want to. I thought, I don't want to, because there's a lot of things I was walking out in a healthy way and learning how to process in a healthy way. It doesn't mean always being like, woo, everything's awesome, but just when I'm sad, how to be healthy sad. When I'm happy, be healthy happy. When I'm angry, be healthy angry. Learning what that even means for me. So I didn't want to go to some group if it was going to be like a cesspool feeling of like everyone just stays in the wall and you just talk about your grief all the time and no one ever goes anywhere with the group with it. And I didn't want that to happen. So I was kind of hesitant about it, but I did think about it off and on because I felt like even though I had shared some of my heart and things like that, that there's so many things that even everyday triggers. Example, the other night we went out to eat with a few of us, and there were at least 4 major songs that reminded me of my dad. So we're just eating dinner, but inside I'm like, here we go again with, do I mention my dad for the 80,000th time? Do I keep this to myself? Because each one of these is very significant. Things like that. And so anyways, actually it was Donna one day, she didn't know that I was considering a group because I was thinking this could be some benefit. I just was kind of hesitant. So she was driving one day and happened to see like a sign. She just felt like God told her to turn this particular direction, lead her to this church.
Grace Church.
A local church.
In Katy. Mm-hmm.
And so...
there's several Graces.
Yeah. Anyway, she got some information about this group, and she brought it home and very, kindly said, I don't know, but, hey, I got this information. You could maybe pray about it, or does this interest you at all? I'm not sure. I just kind of really felt a leading. You're free to make your own choices. And I was like, I've been thinking about something like this. Didn't quite know. Shared about my hesitancy. So I called the lady that kind of oversees this program, and I got some good vibes from her over the phone. I was like, you know what, this is worth me checking out. I can always not go again if it really is that bad. I'm free to leave anytime. It was a free group, and I thought, maybe there's things that I can glean from it or share that would help somebody else, because I felt like it goes both ways. So anyways, there are a lot of different types of groups. This particular one is called Grief Share. It is not denomination based or not just one church based or anything like that. It's just a general curriculum that different churches or groups, organizations kind of provide for people who are walking through the loss of particularly a loved one. So in the group that I'm in, there's like 20 something people in the group. It's the biggest they've ever had. So sometimes we split into 2, and they usually have everyone who's lost a spouse, whether that was last week, which there's some people like that, or years ago, it doesn't matter. They kind of share their because losing a spouse is a very particular, there's nothing like that exactly. So they have very specific things that they can walk together through. The other group that we have is for kind of everybody else, but it just happens to mainly be people who have lost parents or children. There's a few people who have lost a sibling as well. And some have been through this. This is a 13-week course, and each week is individual. So if you miss a week or you come on week 5, it's not like you're out of the loop. It doesn't just build. But it's a 13-week thing, and they just address everything from, maybe you have an initial shock going on. These are different emotions you could be feeling. These are some relational things that you may be experiencing with people who don't know what to do with you, or that say things that they don't realize are not helping at all. Or, what do you do when you have to immediately go back to work? Or what do you do when you have children in the mix? Or what do you do when you have to go through all their stuff? Or, just so many things that people who haven't walked through it directly may not even know exists, for one, or understand. Yeah. So anyway, but one thing I wanted to point out was that at the beginning of this book, they have this list called Common Responses to the Death of a Loved One. And it's like a really large list. Now, I knew about most of the things on this list, but I had never seen it in a mothership list like this. And so what I did for me, because you're supposed to make like a little checklist of where you are in life. What I did was, because it had been close to 8 months when I started this course, I did 2 columns. I did a everything from January to now that I've experienced column. Excuse me, which I knew it would be a lot. I didn't realize it would be all but 2 or 3, I forget which ones. And then I did a second column of where I was at the beginning of this course. And then I'm going to do a third column at the end of the 13 weeks to see where I am. It's just a me and God thing, but it shows me, it's not like oh my gosh, if I'm still struggling with something on the list, like that's bad. It's not like you have to eliminate everything. Some of the things are actually good, like peace and prayer and trusting God. You know, it's just kind of assessing where you are in your journey and your own heart and where you're inviting God and all of those things. But I would recommend, if you are looking for resources from the source, considering for a season to look into some sort of group like a group share. I personally don't agree with every single thing on every single video. They have multiple people being interviewed and they share their own experiences. They share scriptures. You don't have to be a Christian to be in the group either. They're very clear about that, although they do reference the Bible and they do reference the importance of both intentional solitude and intentionally letting God come and love on you, whatever that looks like, and speaking to you and being open to that. And also the importance of not isolating, but being with people in a healthy way as well. And so, anyway, just a little plug for that. I haven't agreed with every single thing, and some of it, maybe it's not like I don't agree, but it doesn't apply to my particular situation.
Right.
But it's been a really helpful place for people to be on the same page with other people, understand a lot of what you are also experiencing, and then we can kind of put some helpful tools out there maybe for someone else, and it's just a safe place.
And I went ahead and put a link called Grief and Loss and Bereavement Support, and it's got many names of different support groups, from suicide to death of parents to death of children to infant death to divorce to siblings to you name it, war, you name it. There is a support group probably for you or someone you know. You're welcome to share this video. Some of what we have shared tonight has been deep with many tears, and for those of you who shared later, who came in later, and some of it has been funny. You know, we just try to stay raw and real as we try to solve all the problems in the world, or maybe just one. But tonight's subject was mostly on death and how we have personally been impacted and how to walk that out in a place where you are not alone, and how to walk it out in a place where you're not only not alone, but you're not just walking it out with other people, but you're walking out with the one who lives inside of you. Because your true peace and your true source of your peace and your strength and your life is the Father, Son, and Spirit who live within you, not just the Father, Son, and Spirit that live in everybody else. Many times we look here for that one that lives inside. And right here is where you can be raw and you can be real. And you can be authentic. Listen, this has been quite deep. I do invite you to share this. I am going to end in some real strong prayer for those who have gone through serious things. You know, we try to keep things very real and very authentic. And we try to keep them very filled with life. In the midst of life, we also have death. In the midst of joy, we also experience pain. In the midst of loss, we also experience abundance. And it's finding how to find that comfort and that strength as you're living your real life here on planet Earth, but connecting here in a heavenly place, living from a peaceful place, a place of love, versus just from your soul that will only want to comfort you with a soulish theme, versus the strength and the peace that lasts forever. Anyhow, yeah. And listen, when my mom passed almost 40 years ago, there there really weren't groups to go to. Not that I knew of anyway. And I think it can be a very healthy thing to find folks that are looking at the loss that you're looking at from a heavenly place versus just a soulish place. I would run from any place that does nothing but reinforce your loss. If you find yourself in a place where you need comfort and you walk in the room and all they say is, hi, I've experienced death and I'm living in death and I only look forward to death, you don't want to stay there. You need to run. But if you're around people that, hey, I've experienced death, but I'm learning how to live, and I will live again, and I will know joy again, then you might want to remain. You might find a friend who can walk with you, not to reinforce your pain, not to resist your pain, not to try to resolve your pain, but to have compassion with you as you walk through your pain and you get to the other side where you can now comfort those that have had the pain you have experienced. The beauty of walking out life in this place where Father, Son, and Spirit live within, and we live in this place of union, not just the three living inside me, the one, not just the three living inside you, the one, but the three and the one living as one. The beauty is that whether you are in victory or you are in defeat, whether you are in success or whether you are in failure, whether you are in mourning or whether you are in joy, whether you are in sadness or whether you are in happiness, whether you are in shutdown or whether you are in stand-up, you get to do it in this union with the ones who will never leave you and never forsake you. They've been with you from the beginning, and they'll be with you through the end on this planet until you return from where you came from in the first place. Because they're the smartest people we know. Father, the architect. The Son, the creator. The Spirit. The truth. All of this, love. We came from love. We get to learn and receive this love. And we get to give this love. And we get to return to love when it's all said and done. Now that's relationship. That's relationship. I bless you. I bless you. We're going to pray for those who've experienced loss, experienced pain, experienced death, experienced dying. Maybe you're facing loss. Maybe you're facing the possibility of you dying. I don't know. These are strong things. These are real things. These are raw things. Maybe you've not even told anybody what you're going through, and you need a friend. We're going to pray for you now and pray that you would receive the strength and encouragement from the ones who live inside of you in such a way that when you wake up in the morning, you'll be able to acknowledge their presence with you and not feel so alone. Right? Anything else? Because let's pray.
And just to remind you that heaven is not a pipe dream, and eternity doesn't begin after this planet. Eternity has already begun. This timeline that we're on right now is actually a part of the eternal timeline. And so I know that it's really deep, but I've pondered this a lot, and I'm still learning even what that even means. But it's so real. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah. Amen. Be sure and share this with a friend who might be encouraged. Father, we thank you for who you are, God. We thank you for the calling on all our lives to know you more closely than we've ever known anybody. And God, we come from our spirits alive in Christ, and we release strength to those that feel so weak they don't think they can move. We release abundance into that one that has experienced such a deep loss. They don't know if they can go on. God, we release a oneness to come into that one who has experienced this division, this divorce, this devastation. That they would find their union in you so satisfying that as they recover, they would find themselves resurrected and not just recovered. And resurrected from a place of love and life. Not just people who just picked up the pieces to rock on. We release life into those that are struggling with the death of a loved one. We release, God, a strength and a confident expectancy to rise in those that are feeling so hopeless and so trapped in despair. They don't know what to do. God, I pray for a supernatural visitation, but God, I also pray for resources to flood their side, that an idea would come into their heart, a safe place for them to start again. That they would not live in this darkness that leads them into such a place that they would no longer want to live. God, we release life, 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 and life again into the cells where there is sickness, into the cells where there is devastation. We just release the assignment of the cellular memory that continues to remind the body of sickness and despair. We cut you away and pull you up off and throw you into an abyss. And we release life and living into those that are struggling to even take a breath. God, I release life into that one who is struggling and they are about to take their last breath. That one who knows their time has really come. And they can't tell anybody because it would freak out people. God, I pray that one would have such a peace, such a strength, such a life, such a countenance, that there be nothing amiss, that they would just know this is bliss and this is where I'm headed. I release wisdom into those that feel like they've made such foolish actions that they don't think they'll ever recover or that you'll ever forgive them. God, we release your forgiveness. The forgiveness that has taken place since the beginning of time. We release that forgiveness. We release the reconciliation that took place at the cross for all these that feel like they have to live in loss, that they feel they're condemned with no answer, yet we see that you, my Lord, my God, my King, you brought their intimacy.
I just keep getting this picture of someone that feels like you are literally in prison with shackles on your hands, chained to a wall, and it just feels like such a small space. There's no windows. It's just this dark, dank prison of feeling. And what I see is just, it's all about your mindset. It's all about your perspective. Even in the absolute worst, most devastating thing that could happen to you on the planet, when you know the freedom that has been given to you to walk forth it's like what I see is the walls disappear and all I see is blue sky. The ceiling just is gone. There's only blue sky. And what felt like those big shackle things chaining to the wall, it feels like there's nothing there. It's not saying, pretending like nothing's going on and acting like you're unaware of tragedy or faking something. It's literally getting in tune with the greater reality of you are free even in the midst of this. You are not in a prison, though it may look like you are in a prison. You are not imprisoned. I was looking for a passage. I remember a long time ago I was looking for this passage and I could never find it. I always think it's in Habakkuk. It's not. But there is another one in Habakkuk which is awesome, and I'm going to read it. In chapter 3, at the very end of the book, I'll start at verse 17. Though the fig tree does not blossom, and there's no fruit on the vines, though all of the olives are failing, and the fields are producing no food, though the flock feels like it's been cut off from the fold, and there's no cattle in the stalls, these are all the areas of life. Food, transportation, abundance, your livelihood. Yet I will rejoice and worship in the Lord. I will rejoice in the God of my salvation. The Lord God is my strength. He has made my feet like hinds' feet. He makes me walk on high places. Have you ever seen one of those pictures or videos of those like little goats that literally live on the side of a cliff, where it's not just like, oh, that's kind of steep. It's pretty much vertical. There's not even anything for the little hoof to hang on to.
Yeah.
That's what this is referring to. Even in the midst of all of this devastation, what looks like every area of my life is maybe what some would call attacked. The Lord God is your strength. He makes your feet like those goats, the hinds. And they don't tiptoe like, I gotta hang on to this cliff because, this is where I live. No, they leap around like they're on
hinds feet.
Flat ground.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Even the little babies. I watched a little video. I'm like, oh my gosh, the little baby's gonna fall. No, they come bouncing out like, what? I live on the side of a cliff. I don't even know what they eat. There's like nothing that grows in that weird direction. But he gives you hinds feet to walk on high places in the midst of all that. So the ceiling and the walls are gone and you're free. The passage that I was looking for, but I don't have time right now to find it again, is it's talking about though a tree may be cut down, it feels like all there is a stump, yet at the scent of water, it will begin to sprout again. And so what I want to declare over you is that if you feel like you have literally been, like the phrase, like the wind has been knocked out of your sails, or you feel like your feet were just knocked out from under you and you just went to the ground. It's that feeling of you being a tree and just being chopped down to the literal stump. And that's literally what you feel like. Like, forget leaves, forget the branches, forget all the sap. It's just nothing but a stump now. First of all, you still have roots.
Amen.
And what I've learned about a root system is that it matches the shape and size of the top of the tree with the leaves and the branches, matches the root system under the ground. I didn't know that for so long. It's fascinating. So even if you feel like all you are is that little stump, first of all, you have a root system like nobody's business. And have you ever seen, or have you tried yourself? I have tried to do this. It is work to get a stump out of the ground.
Yeah,
it is work. Work. Okay, secondly, I just declare over you that the scent of water and times of refreshing.
Is it in the Psalms?
I don't know. The truth of God's living presence in you and all around you, that you are going to catch wind and catch that fragrance and catch that little glimpse of hope, and that you are immediately not going to wait, but you're going to begin to sprout from that place. And I just want to declare over you that you are going to grow strong, that your root system will not be shriveled. It will remain and only increase, that you will be stronger and wider than you ever were, and that the fruit and vitality is the word I keep sensing. Vitality in you as you grow is going to be so much more than you ever had before. It's going to be worth it. God, an amazing thing about God is that he never lets pain go in vain. He never wastes one bit of pain. Don't ever waste your pain. Always throw your pain right back at him. Always invite him. Don't ever try to do it by yourself, because it's never a waste. And you will be amazed at how he starts revealing that he saw all along, and he's already on the other side, and he's already showing the beautiful picture that will be woven.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I sense that somebody needs to forgive themselves. Many people focus on forgiving other people. And at the cross, Jesus forgave humanity. So, we're forgiven. We're the ones with the issues, not God. I want to encourage you to decide today to forgive yourself. Just let it all go. Let the past go. Let how people mistreated you go. But I really sense inside me, it's about how you treated others. You need to forgive. Not only how you treated others, but how you treated yourself. Someone has been a person of self-harm, and your life is marked by private self-harm. You might be cutting. You might be seriously thinking about purchasing things to do away with yourself. You might just not eat right on purpose. There might be some things happening in your life where you have such a deep regret. Yet. You forgiving you is critical. Maybe you did not follow up with someone that you felt like you should have. And then that person passed on and you are left with a pain. Listen, you can't go back. You can only move forward. And forgiving you really can't forgive anybody else unless you've forgiven you. That's just how it works in real time. The religious person would say, oh, you need to forgive. Listen, this relationship with you with you is critical. That you forgive you. And maybe you need to forgive someone else. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I had to forgive my mom for dying on me. I was ticked. I was not a happy camper. I was sad, I was hurt, and I was also mad. And I had to be real with those emotions and not let those emotions rule me and not let those emotions control me. And over a lifetime, I had to come to grips with a lot of things regarding that time in my life when I was so young. But forgiving myself was critical. I encourage you to forgive you. I encourage you to forgive that one that perhaps left prematurely and you feel like it was way too soon. Forgive them. Forgive them as well. And just say this with me. Put your hand right here if you can. Right here. Right underneath your collarbone. Say, I forgive me. Listen, there's a scripture in Psalm. Listen to this. Colossians. Tolerate the weaknesses of those in the family of faith. Well, I say tolerate your own weaknesses. Tolerate your weakness. Don't beat yourself up anymore. You can't change the past. Forgive one another in the same way you've been graciously forgiven by Christ. Listen, forgive you. You have already been graciously forgiven. So forgive you with the same forgiveness that Christ has given you. Whether you feel it or not doesn't matter. If you find fault with someone, release the same gift of forgiveness for them. Maybe you find yourself very faulty. Maybe you have a huge fault with you. Listen, forgive you. Just say, I forgive me. I forgive me. I let me go. I let my own offenses go. I let my own faults go. I let my own weaknesses go. I let my own pain go. I let my own unforgiveness go. Why? For love is supreme and must flow through these virtues. Love becomes a mark of true maturity. Let your heart be always guided by the peace of the Anointed One who called you to peace as part of his one body. And always be thankful. Let the word of Christ live in you richly, flooding you with all wisdom. Forgive yourself. It's not going to bear any fruit for you to stay mad at you. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help your family. It's not going to help your friends. It's not going to help the people you work with or the people that work for you. Or it's not going to help anyone for you to maintain a place of being mad with you. It's really not going to be helpful at all. Instead, let the love of God meet you in that place of pain, and let the love of God wash out all the debris from your unforgiveness, from your disappointment, from your hurt, from your deep sadness, from your deep pain. Let the love of God wash until you can live again. Don't allow despair to take your life. Maybe despair took somebody else's life. Maybe sickness took somebody's life. But don't let it take yours. I release you from all guilt, from thinking it's not fair that you get to live. I pull that off of you from my spirit alive in Christ. And I release you to live. I release you to have life. I release you to find life. I release you to live a long time. I release you to move forward on this planet. I release you from the assignment for you to join that person that made decisions that aren't your favorite. And I release you to live and to discover the love of God for you. Because listen to me, they know the love of God for them now. They do. God is merciful and God is kind. And all that religious junk that comes in regarding those kind of things, it's just a bunch of bunk. Just telling you straight up. God is everywhere. And he's with your loved one. And so let him be with you here until you see them again. I bless you. I bless you. We'll see you next Friday for Friday Friendship, Friday Fellowship, where we solve all the problems in the world.
Or maybe just one.
Or maybe just one. Until soon, this is Donna.
And Jen.
Bye-bye. Blessings.